flies right out of my pants. Don't you know I got a little secret? It's the ace of hearts up my sleeve. And when I get home to my honey, she give me love like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, they call me Mr. Lucky, and I thank my stars above. You can call me Mr. Lucky, 'cause I'm lucky in love. When I'm walking through my neighborhood, everybody knows I'm feeling good. See me smiling from my head to my feet. They say, ain't that Mr. Lucky coming down the street? Hey, that's me. I'm Mr. Lucky when you kiss my lips, when you touch me with your fingertips. I'm Mr. Lucky when you hold me tight. I'm Mr. Lucky when we kiss goodnight. Baby, they call me Mr. Lucky, and I thank my stars above. You can call me Mr. Lucky, 'cause I'm lucky in love. Call me Mr. Lucky, and I thank my stars above. You can call me Mr. Lucky, 'cause I'm lucky in love. Call me Mr. Lucky in love. Call me Mr. Lucky in love. You know that's right. Baby, 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 baby.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's up? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking? Good to see you here on a Tuesday. Thanks for being here. Tonight, we've got big fun for you. We've got Russell Alexander from the Hitman Blues Band. Please, as always, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, retweet, all the free things you can do to help the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. And then also, forget the super chats. Forget the memberships. As you can see in the scroll at the bottom of the screen tonight, we'd like you to take your hard-earned money and get some music at hitmanbluesband.com. Believe me, it'll be the best investment you have ever made in your life. In music, Dupa is here. She says, hiya, a UK horror show, and Junior Wells Jr. Thank you for reading my specially tailored screen name. Hey, you know, they tell you sometimes that you should never meet your heroes because it won't go well. And that, I think, is probably true sometimes, but maybe even most of the time. But it is not true in this case. Russell Alexander not only is one of the finest musicians and particularly bluesmen that you will ever meet, he's also, as you will learn, a really good hang. He's a good guy. He's fun. He's hip. So, you know, you meet these people and sometimes they're better than you expected. So, you know, don't worry. Oh, people saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet as verified by independent source. I guess without further ado or don't, why don't we bring him on? The hitman himself, Russell Alexander. There we go. Russell, how are you?
I'm great, man. After an introduction like that, I would blush if I didn't have like this dead white complexion.
Already.
That opening song, if you can't move to that, Jack, you're dead. That is such a great tune, man.
It is. It is. Everybody loves it. And then people listen to it and then they leave the show. Russell said from Wild Bill, greetings from Hotlanta. Thank you for the $2. Chunk Squad says, hey, Tom Gully, you jag off.
Must
Yep.
really like you.
That's yeah, I don't even know the guy. I don't think. Anyway. No, I did see him some there. Is that my Ozzy? No, it's not my Ozzy. Anyway, people saying hi to you. At any rate, I think the story goes that I was on Facebook one day, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the blues, and I saw this band name, Hitman Blues Band, and I went, "Oh, I got to check this out." And then I heard the music, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best stuff ever." And I've told you this. I've told a lot of people this. There are people out there that are doing new things in blues. There's certainly the traditionalists. You guys are doing like service to both things, and I think you're the best blues band in the nation that's active right now. I really do. So that's how I think we hooked up. And then was it like 8 years ago? I interviewed you, something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate all that. The thing is, there are so many great musicians out there. There are so many great bands out there. And at one time, I used to think, man, wouldn't it be great? Because I've been into computers since like 1982. I used to think, man, wouldn't it be great if I could put my music up and people everywhere could hear it? And now it's a double-edged sword because Spotify gets over 100,000 songs a day uploaded.
Wow.
Every day. 100,000 songs. That's just Spotify. Now, if 95% of them are shit, that means you got 5,000 really good songs every single day. So yes, you can hear our music and you can hear a whole crap load of other music. It's like screaming into the wind, because how can you get yourself heard through all of that stuff?
Yeah. Well, today you cracked the top 25 in Australia.
Yeah, that was that was unexpected.
Yeah.
That's good.
These guys are playing some fine blues over here.
And we've got a great friend over there, Frank Saltana, who won the International Blues Competition as a solo artist. And he's been just tearing it up down there, either solo or with his group. And, I said to him, gee, it'd be great if we could go there and tour. And he's like, you do know how big Australia is, right? It's like when I see him do these gigs and it's like, it's a 12-hour drive.
Yeah.
Between. I'm like, oh, wow. And of course I fall asleep at the wheel. That would generally be a bit of a problem. Although, the other drivers usually wake me up like, fuck you.
So, okay, we've covered this, but to the uninitiated, how did the hat come about?
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Some people have said to me, oh, you're doing a Slash hat. I'm like, I've been wearing this hat since I was 15. Slash was 2. So no, I just like top hats. I think I saw T-Rex, okay, Mark Bolan. Yeah, that might have been part of it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it looked cool. But I just always like top hats, man. They're cool. And, it's they don't really make the beaver, thank God. They don't make the beaver, for top hats anymore, but those were the real ones. This is made out of wool and it is hot enough on stage. Thank you very much. But, the thing is, if I do a gig in the summertime and it's outdoors, I can lift this up and stick like an ice pack in there. Because if your head's cool, the rest of I like to just say something about what you got scrolling against the bottom there.
Yeah.
And it's to everybody who's out there. Listen, for us and for every band that you see, we know you don't really need another CD. We know you don't really need another T-shirt. You don't need a beer cozy. We know this. But when you buy our merchandise, especially at gigs, that's what lets us keep doing the gigs. Because a lot of times the pay is just like may not even cover expenses. When we're touring in the UK, we got two guys, Rod Ireland and John Pearson, who sell our merch and they can sell ice to Eskimos. And I've said to them, if you guys were not doing this, we couldn't be here, because it's just $7 a gallon for gas and the flight to get over there and renting a car. And when we have to stay, we stay at my agent's house because him and his wife are saints. But when we have to, if we're playing in like Scotland and then we're playing another, we got to stay over someplace. We're going to drive back to London. And it's the merch sales. That's what keeps it going. So for all you people who go out and you buy merch, God bless you. You are keeping us going.
Yeah. Well, and you tour there quite frequently over in England. I think you're going back again after the turn of the year.
Yeah, we this is our 20th year, not consecutive, but our 20th, it's our 20th year of going there. And we, missed some years and stuff. So it wasn't like it was 20 years through 2004 to 2024, now 2025. And we're going back at the end of January. We got a gig in Scotland. We're doing the Blackpool UK festival, the Eel Pie Club, which we love to play, the Red Arrow Music Club in Ramsgate, and the Tuesday Night Music Club. So we're going to be, it's on our website, UK Horror Scene. We're going to be in Scotland on January 31st and in Blackpool on February 1st. So just drive right there. And then we're going down to London, and we got those 3 gigs, and hopefully we'll book a few more, but we are coming back to the US on the 13th. So we're hoping that, we can pick up a couple more. The last time we were there, which was, we were there from October 29th through just before Thanksgiving. November 27th was our last gig at the 100 Club. And we had a bunch of gigs booked, and then we picked up a couple more. So you never know, that stuff happens.
He's a Liverpool guy, I think.
Oh, I would love to play. We haven't been there since for a long time. There was a biker bar called the Hotel California outside of Liverpool. And I would love to play Liverpool. We got to find a place to, my agent's probably watching. Well, it's kind of late for him now, but I will mention it to him. We've got to go back to Wales, and I would love to go to Atlanta. I'd love to go to Georgia. There's a guy over in Georgia, who's Brett Hitman Bernard, and so for a while he was using the name Hitman Blues Band, and I finally got hold of him. It's like, look, man, I got the trademark on that, and I don't want to be a creep about it.
Yeah.
But if I don't protect the trademark, I lose it.
Yeah.
So, like, if Coca-Cola was just to say, like, to find out that another company was making Coca-Cola and they didn't do anything about it, they lose their trademark. That's why Matt Groening from The Simpsons is, like, right on top of that crap.
Yeah.
So, and, we talked about it, and he said, okay. I said, listen, you can use anything else you want. You call yourself Brett Hitman Bernard and the band, or Brett Hitman Bernard Blues Band, or whatever you want. You just can't be the Hitman Blues Band. And he's been fine with it. Unfortunately, some of the places that he plays, they bill it as the Hitman Blues Band. And then I get people emailing me, go, oh, you're playing here. When
Well, he should have the Hitmen and the Hitmen,
It's already a group called the Hitmen.
Yeah.
They are the guys who played, I've talked with them as well. They're the guys who played on all the big hits that you heard from the 60s and the 70s. And they were the sidemen, and they put together their own group, and they're great.
Like the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, like the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
They're a great band. And in fact, a friend of mine is playing with them now. And, if you get a chance to see them, definitely you won't be sorry.
Hey, the Cavern Club, where the Beatles started, would be a fantastic venue. UK Horror Scene. If you can make that happen, you can talk to the Hitman here, and he'll, maybe you guys can work out a deal.
Yeah, I would love to. The problem is always going to be bread. How much it's actually paying. Like, I was bringing my whole band with me, but the last couple of tours and this one coming up, I'm using English guys. Just because it costs so much to fly people over.
Yeah.
And then I got to worry about where they're going to stay because there's only so many people we can squeeze into my agent's house.
Yeah.
You know, you know, and you know, with my guys here, my standard line is, I can't promise you money, I can't promise you fame, I can't even promise you a good time. All I can promise is it will be an adventure, and it always is.
Yeah.
So, and you know, an adventure, a real adventure, has great things happen and fucking horrible things happen.
Oh yeah.
And that's like this last tour. We had some great things happen, and oh boy, do we have some horrible things happen.
Yeah.
But it was that's a real adventure.
Ronnie Hawkins told the band, because that's who they started off with. He goes, "Look, I can't promise you any money. The work won't be that steady, but you'll get more women than Frank Sinatra." And they were in. They were in. You know, one of my favorite songs of yours is the title track off of this album, "Angel in the Shadows." I could listen to it over and over and over again. Is there a story behind that? Is it?
There is. I used to say that I didn't write that song about anybody in particular, but I actually wrote it about quite a few people in particular. That is the song that got us touring in the UK and then to Europe, because my wife, Joanne, sent out over 100 press kits to booking agents all over Europe. We got one, you too, Mark, we got one positive response. One. This guy, Cat Anderson, he had been the like road manager for Humble Pie, and then he became Steve Marriott's personal manager, and then he had a stroke, and he was out of the business for 10 years. And then he decided that he was getting better, and he decided he wanted to get back into it again. And just then is when he got our press kit. He heard that song, and you have to understand Cat to understand his way of speaking. It was like, well, it wasn't like the rest of the shit I hear. So he booked me. Yeah, when we had a gig in Scotland, and we're driving up with him, and he goes, "We're in Scotland now. They fuck sheep and eat their babies." And I could say that because I'm half Scottish, and I was like, okay, all right. Unfortunately, Cat passed in 2011 from another like brain cancer. So that was, but he was a great guy. But he booked us for a 6-week tour. So Joanne and I went, and we used an English band to back us up. And he came to the third gig. And the deal was that the backup band played their, stuff. They were an original band called Groove Juice. And apparently it was because they were backing me up that they were able to do these gigs. I don't know why. I mean, so it's not like I was known or anything.
Right.
But we were able to get into rooms, maybe because I was American. I don't know. But those days are long gone, by the way. Yeah. Musicians, if you think you're going to go to the UK or the EU and they're going to say, "Oh, an American," no, they're not.
Well, especially an American playing the blues.
Yeah. So they did their set. I got up. I opened up with Killing Floor, which I don't normally do. I just, was trying to, meld with these guys. And then I did my first original, and I sang. And Joanne was not singing with me at that time. She's a backup. My wife is one of the backup singers. But he turned to her and he said, "Now I can breathe." And she said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I didn't know if he could actually sing." He booked us for 6 weeks. And he didn't know if I could actually deliver the goods.
Well,
just because he liked that song.
It's an amazing song. I'd play it, but as you know, you've often said, "Hey, play any of my stuff you want." And then I did. And remember when I got the notice from that law firm, and you were like, "I don't know who these people are."
Oh, that was probably CD Baby or something. Or Ask.
No, it was an actual law firm that basically just was scouring YouTube, and anything that wasn't licensed, they would just threaten the people. And then I assume they went to the band at some point and said, you should let us take care of this for you or whatever. But you were like, I've never heard of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, one thing that if you're a musician now, there are so many pitfalls out there. People who are offering all kinds of courses and things that are definitely going to get you 1 million streams and 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I've actually looked into a hell of a lot of them, and quite a bit of money. And some of them were legit, some of them were absolute garbage, just nonsense. And they would have their own crap that their own charts and their own stuff, like nonsense. It's and I know guys who have been around the block a few times who fall for this also. So if you're a musician or if you know musicians, it's you really need to do your research these days. It's just absolutely crazy because there's so many that there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Tumblr, there's Twitter, if you're still using that, which I really don't, even though we have 7,000 or something like that followers on it. You have YouTube, your Apple Music, Deezer, just a ton of, and I'm just scratching the surface there.
Yeah, Spotify and the rest of it.
Yeah, well, Spotify, of course. I mean, Spotify's the 300-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
We got 500,000 streams on a couple albums ago. It's up to like 800,000 now. You know how much money we got for that?
$1.50.
Not enough to cover the cost of actually pressing the CDs, because you get 0.004 cents per stream.
Man.
So you need 10 streams to make 4 cents. And now they've changed it. If any song gets less than 1,000 streams in a year, you don't get anything. And you might think, well, okay, if you don't get 1,000 streams, all right. But what if you got 10 songs that get 900 streams?
Yeah.
Right? Now you're looking at like 9,000 streams that you're not getting paid for.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so the guy who runs Spotify, I mean, he's only a freaking billionaire. I'm sure he can't afford it.
Yeah. Well, you are from a musical family. At least I know your father was a keyboard player of note, right? A jazz vibes.
Yeah, that's the other Ray Alexander, was the keyboardist. My father was a drummer, and then he I would say switched over, but he was still a drummer. He was a vibist, and he had 3 albums out on Vibes. He played with George Shearing. He played with Claude Thornhill. He played with Charlie Barnett.
Oh man.
With the Dossies. He played with a million people. He was on Beauty and the Beat with Peggy Lee and George Shearing. He was on Martin Denny's Choir Village. And then after we were born, he decided that it was more important for him to be home for his kids than to be on the road, because he didn't really have a father. His father left early on, sent money, but wasn't there like emotionally. And he was a good father. He was a good guy, and he was a great musician.
So one of the questions I was thinking about today is, sometimes if your father, whether it's an athlete or an actor or whatever, if they've achieved a certain status, and by the way, George Shearing, ooh, man, that's rarefied air there. Sometimes they're very dictatorial. They're very, you're going to do it this way. And other times they're refreshingly open-minded. They, if they hear any kind of music, it's like if you started playing punk rock, they might go, hey, some of it's pretty good, whatever. What was your dad, either one of those things, or in the middle, or?
He was in the middle.
Yeah.
I bought him Selling England by the Pound to show him that not all rock is like Grand Funk Railroad. I remember we were at the World's Fair 1964.
Mhm.
And for some reason, this stuck in my head. I remember we went into a one of the many places to eat there, and they had like rock on the radio, on the speakers. And he said to the waiter, "Can you turn that crap off?" So, at that time he was not 1964. He wasn't enamored of rock and roll. He changed over the years, and he was open to things, but like so many of us, it was what he grew up with that he loved the most.
Right.
And there's a very physical reason for that. There's the way music imprints itself on your brain, experiences that you have as a teenager, and the music is part of that. And that's why people always go, oh, they don't write, good songs anymore. Of course they do. They write great songs.
Yes.
Because we're not really open to them. I've always wondered how somebody who grew up with like real hardcore gangster rap, right? And now they're 80. They're talking to their like grandchildren and they're saying, here's a song that I used to listen to with your grandmother. Go, shut your hoe, you fucking hoe. Your grandmama was a hoe, How do you?
Yeah, I constantly, because I work in an industry where there's a lot of young people, and I am constantly asking them, "What are you listening to? What's hot right now? Show me. I want to listen to it. I'm like a shark that way." Probably, like most people, I hear an old song. That's what I love the most, is when I hear a song I haven't heard for 40 years. Because you know how popular radio is. It takes those top 40, and if you were the 41st most popular song that year, you're not getting played ever. No. But if you're in that top 40, you will. There's a song by Carla Bonoff called "Personally" that I hadn't heard in 40 years, and it was just like, oh, I'm right back there. But I also listen to a lot of Lake Street Dive, which isn't even a new band anymore. How much new stuff do you get to hear, or are you just so busy playing that nothing can break through?
I made a copy of the people who were playing at Coachella this year. I made a copy of the poster while I was in England. And I haven't had time since I got back, but my goal is I'm going to listen to at least half of the people on that just to get, a better idea. My daughter, Victoria.
Oh, boy, she's talented.
Yeah, no, that's Angelique.
Angelique. Okay.
Victoria's also talented, but she doesn't sing, and I don't know why, because she's got a great voice.
Okay.
She's probably busy with the 3 kids, but and also her baking and doing American Sign Language, which is. But she gave me a bunch of tunes that I did on my YouTube channel, just acoustic guitar myself, of groups that I wasn't that familiar with, things like Check Yes, Juliet. And there's like 6 or 7 of them, or 8, or whatever it was. And these were songs that I was listening to, and I was saying, these are great songs, and I totally miss them the same way that my parents missed all these great songs.
Yeah.
Because I used to, I was a freelancer. I played what they call in England functions and what we call club days, weddings, corporate events, that kind of stuff. And I always used to, for a long time, I was the youngest guy in the band, and even when I wasn't the youngest guy, I was still, younger than some of the guys. And I always used to laugh at the fact that they were around when all these songs came and they didn't know them. They didn't know the Grateful Dead. They didn't know the Ramones, man. They didn't know, Yes, they didn't know. And I'd say, like, what excuse do you have? You were alive. I know all the songs that were before I was born. I knew songs from 1910 on up. Yeah. I know all these tunes. Why don't you know these songs? Well, now I know. Because you're busy with life and you just don't really care. And most importantly, you don't have friends to turn you on to this because they're all listening to the old crap.
Yeah.
When we were kids, man, people going, oh, man, check out this band Slade. Check out Jay Giles.
Yeah. Oh, Jay Giles.
Yeah. We don't have friends who do that for us anymore. So,
well, and the one of the cool things about the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the radio was almost a character in it. And when I was a lad, popular music you might, on a top 40 station, you might hear a country song. You might hear oh my God, instrumental. The way that we are served up music nowadays is, and for many, many, many decades, is pick a lane. Pick a lane. You want to be country? Do you want to be metal? Do you want to be, college rock? Do you want to be regular top 40 album rock? And you just kind of get sectioned off from other stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's, in the blues, you have and other genres as well, jazz. You have these kind of gatekeepers who determine what is and what is not, supposed to be there. But at the same time, you do get people who break through a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the joke used to be the blues isn't dead, but it smells funny. It was stuck in this, one lane. And when Stevie Ray came out, there were a lot of blues people who were like, "Hey, he's not blues." Are you out of your mind? Of course he's blues.
Yeah.
It took him years to admit that Johnny Winter was actually a blues player.
Well, yeah. And I remember the Blues Brothers movie started there was a little detonation there. But there was a period of time where you had Stevie Ray, Robert Cray, a bunch of blues started to come to the forefront, sort of mid-'80s. And that made everybody kind of go retro and rediscover Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker and Howlin' Wolf and all the rest of them. And I was way out in front of that. I mean, I was searching through for, Blind Louisiana Carl or whoever that, just anything I could find, because at the time there wasn't more modern formulations of the blues. It was all that old school, stand-up bass. You can hear the foot stomp in the background, picking guitar, and Junior Wells. I mean, my hero and buddy guy. TNT, and was it smoking TNT and drinking TNT, smoking dynamite? That album with the two of them. Buddy guy, of course, one of my fashion idols. He's never said the words. Never said the words, "Does this match with this?" in his life. So how did you and your lovely wife meet? And did you know at first that she was going to end up becoming part of the band? She's an extremely talented photographer as well.
Thank you. I will tell her that. We met in college. I went to college. I started college when I was 16. And they were rebuilding these science buildings. They had a thing called the Science Lounge, which was kind of just a place with some tables and chairs while they were doing the building. And that's where everybody, went to get high and play guitar and, drink coffee, because we're in college now,
Yeah.
And that's where I met her. And then we lost contact for a number of years. We'll be married for 20 years as of this February. So probably about 23 years ago, we reconnected, and that, it developed into that. And on the album Pale Rider, is the first album where I started using, on one song, I put some horns in, called Miss Catherine. And I also...
It's a good one.
Thank you. And I also added some backup vocals. So I had her and my bass player, Mike Porter, his wife, Nancy. They did some backup vocals. And then we started thinking, well, stupid. You've been playing with horns all your life on these function gigs, on these club date gigs. Have, horns in the band, and have backup singers in the band. So in 2014, they started coming on stage with us, and I got a funny, quick story about that. We were playing at the Eel Pie Club, and it was the first tour where they were going to sing backup with us. and I had the horn section. They were on stage left, and then we had the drums, and then we had the bass on stage left, and they were in the middle, and I was on stage right, and the keyboard player was next to me on stage right, and we did 2 or 3 songs, and then was the song for them to come, start singing. The first song that they ever did with us live, right? And I put the wrong key on the set list. The keyboard player heard it right away and just stopped playing. So he wasn't playing. And my guitar that I wanted to use, I was borrowing from somebody and it wasn't there yet. So I had a Fender Strat with a whammy bar. Now I have a Fender Strat, but it doesn't have a whammy bar. So I don't really know that much about whammy bars. The high E string broke and the whole guitar went out of tune half a step down. So the song's in E and I'm playing in E flat. Now, if you know, like a bass only goes down to E. It doesn't go down to E flat, and unless you have a 5-string bass, but he did not. So I'm playing in E flat. There's no keyboard to kind of like, fix this up.
Smooth it out.
On the other side of the stage don't really hear me. They don't know they just know that something is off. The bass player is trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And these poor girls are trying to sing and they hear me on one side and the bass on the other and the horns on the other. They don't know what to sing. And you got to realize I've been doing this a long time. And I had to overcome crippling stage fright when I was younger in order to like be able to do this. And I'm sitting there playing and a little voice in my head is going, run, save yourself. and of course I couldn't. And we get through the song and the audience is like, because they didn't know what the hell they were hearing.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a harp player, I had to constantly down here in Texas, because Texas is not a harmonica-y place. Indianapolis, where I grew up, Chicago, where I would go busking and play in blues clubs, very harmonica places. They would tell me I needed a special mic cable for my green bullet in order to play on stage with all sorts of crazy stuff. And I always used to have to say, look, I'm a harp player. I only play in the majors. I have a set of Lee Oscar natural minors, but a lot of times I wouldn't even bring them. It's like, and there were a lot of songs where they start playing and I just go, yeah, okay, I'm out. That's where I'm not in.
For that. Oh, no, the Lee Oscar is the one with the replaceable reeds, right?
Well, all the reeds are replaceable.
Well, I mean, but quickly replaceable.
I never. Lee Oscar has a plastic comb, right, which that's why you get the sound on Low Rider or Why Can't We Be Friends or whatever. It's got that honky kind of, I don't want to say it sounds like a toy because it doesn't, but it definitely has that plastic body sound. And I'm used to a sealed, wood comb it's been sealed in paraffin, because when you play like a Hohner Marine band, you have to time your blow and draw a fraction of a second early because air is going to escape. It hasn't been sealed unless you take it apart and seal it yourself. I play a 1923 vintage Herring, and those are also, most harmonicas are not just chord justified. In other words, when you play chords, it's much harder with most harmonicas because they haven't been tuned to play as chords. They're individual notes. And so anyway, it's more than anybody ever wants to know.
It might be a little bit off out of tune because you're doing a whole chord. By the way, just so that you know, and for Doopa-Doopa-Doo, I do not have a favorite blues musician or band. It's like asking me what my favorite breath is. I mean, yeah, I took a breath in 1983 and that was real. No, there's just there's too many. There is no favorite. My father told me, you're always going to find people better than you. You're always going to find people worse than you, and you can learn from all of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there are so many great blues musicians and great blues bands that it's impossible to choose. And if anybody was to say, oh, but if you were going to a desert island, I wouldn't go. Okay, I'd bring a shortwave radio with me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bottom, just a thing about it's just a little bit of theory here. If you're playing in a major key, so if you're playing like in the key of C, and they're playing in A minor, you're in the same key.
You are, but when you play the blues, you play cross harp. So like for C, I would be playing an F harp.
All right, so if you're playing an F harp and you're playing cross harp in C, you're also playing A minor. As long as you don't do this. So if you don't do on the harp, if you don't do this riff, because that's the major.
Right.
But if you just go, you're in A minor.
You can do what I call fill, and you can do certain things, especially if you know how to bend notes, and if you know how to play a chromatic, that helps a lot too.
Yeah,
but that's
but the thing is that the key of C is the same notes as the key of A minor. Right. So you just move down 3 steps. So
it's
C,
not
B, A.
It's not so much what you're playing is. I mean, it's an accompaniment instrument, so it's what everybody else is doing. But there's plenty of times when it's and it's a one of the majors that you get, because you have to have 7 harps to play the harp.
Yeah.
And one of them is a B flat, I think. And it corresponds too when you're playing cross harp. But that's my big thing always on stage, because I played with, like you, lots and lots and lots and lots of bands. You have to if you're a harmonica player. And so I'm always there just doing the, open the door thing. What key? Give me the key. I have to really, because you guys know these songs. I don't necessarily. Luckily, it is the blues. So there's a progression, and you're not going to be, you're not playing Frankenstein too often by, Edgar Winter. So, you get through it. But
yes, but you are playing Me and Bobby McGee if a female vocalist comes up.
Yeah.
To I'm not, I mean, there's plenty of hackneyed songs like, Stairway, what is it? Mustang Freebird to Heaven. So,
oh, let's see here. Dupa says there's so many, hard to pick just one. My favorite show of all time is Junior Kimbrough at his juke joint in Mississippi in 1997. She also says that Sister Rosetta Tharpe was one. I'm a big Coco Taylor fan.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm sort of Chicago-y, just because that's how I grew up there. But now you have got a new album out that just dropped in late October, I believe, correct?
It's officially coming out. Today's Tuesday. It's officially coming out on Friday. But the thing is, when you talk about when an album comes out, I'm not Taylor Swift, man. I'm not Beyonce. I'm not Usher or something. They spend. People don't realize this. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure that the album drop is exactly when they want it, and they have the control over it. And that's why they freak out when somebody leaks like the album beforehand, because we're talking really big money.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody gives a crap when I release my album, or when most of us, independent guys, if I say I'm releasing it on December 19th, that's fine. As far as Spotify is concerned, I'm releasing one song at a time.
Yeah.
So that I get a better chance of getting maybe on a playlist, and then the whole album would get released, I don't know, in February or something, you know.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. We're already, you know, getting airplay, and the album's not even officially released yet. But it doesn't really mean anything at the level that we're on. It only means something when you're at a level where it's really worth it for people to rip you off.
Yeah, that's true. And hopefully people go and find some of your music, and then, because that's what I do. If I find somebody that I like, it's like, it's a sickness. It's like, well, now I must have everything they've ever done. You know, but I know your last album, which was extremely well received. I loved it. I listened to it all the time, and it's you know, kind of reimagined takes on classic songs.
Right. I mean, this is all from our previous albums. We usually have, not on every album, but on we have 9 albums out now. I would say on at least 5 of them or 6 of them, we have, probably 5, we have our version of certain cover tunes that we do totally, completely different from the original version, because if we do it the way the original went, what's the best you could hope for? It's to be able to do it as well as the guy who originally did it. And I'm not John Lee Hooker, man. Yeah. I'm not going to do it as well as he did it. So we do it a completely different way, but I try and keep it blues, or at least blues influenced, so that you would hear it and go, oh, okay, that's blues. I mean, one comment we get from a lot of people is, I don't really like the blues, but I like what you guys do. And I'm like, well, what we're doing actually is the blues.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not the blue. It's not what your conception of the blues is. I was reading Keith Richards' autobiography. Well, I mean, autobiography, he had it written for him, but it's supposed to go. And he was talking about how in the early 60s, people would get into fist fights over what was and was not blues.
Yeah.
Because they thought, you know, some guys say the only blues is a black guy with a straw hat sitting on a stool going down to the river, go and see my gal. You know, they're looking at even to Chicago blues was not real blues to them, you know, because it was electric.
Yeah. That came up from the Delta and got electrified. That was the whole thing about it. And I think the blues it's taken such a, you know, a turn from because, you know, in the 80s, you know, there were bands that were making it more palatable, let's say. And then of course Stevie Ray came through and just undeniable virtuosity, just you know, destroying people, and it's still there. It's still really there. It's just, it's not as in the front. And what you guys do is without question the blues. There's some of your songs, Green Thing, and that, God, I love that song. And there's a few others.
That's Angelique's favorite song. Out of all the albums I've done, the song she likes the best is the one from my very first album.
Well, and there's some stuff off the live album. Obviously, well, not off the live album necessarily, but the Catch-22 Blues. Oh my God, I love that song.
That's Joanne's favorite song.
Oh man, is it good? Sharing Christmas with the Blues is it's a staple at my house here. But 2 Minute Warning, especially your introduction to 2 Minute Warning, I have played that for people. You know, they've been in my car or something, and it's like, what's this? I'm like, just listen to the guy. Is this even a song? I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a song. And then it starts, and it's like so, you know, appropriate for the whole concept behind it.
Yeah, I actually was on this latest tour. on the newsletter, I wanted to play all the songs from the new album because I want to give them a chance and I want to see how they work in front of a live audience. Of course, I do everything ass backwards. Most people play the songs in front of a live audience and then they record them.
Yeah.
With this one, I wrote a whole bunch of new tunes. So out of the 12 songs on the album, only 3 or 4 of them were actually played in front of live audiences for a year or two. And the rest of them, were never played in front of an audience. So I wanted to do that. And in my newsletter, by the way, if you sign up for our newsletter, you do not get a free sampler. You get a free album. A free album, which has tunes from a bunch of our different albums, and you get a blues primer. Now, I know that, some of you might say, oh, man, I know about the blues. Yeah, and I thought I knew about the blues too, but it turns out there was a lot of crap I really didn't know. And I've tried to put some of that into this blues primer. And it's just a primer. It leaves out a ton of crap. But people like some of the myths about the blues is that the blues started in the country. And the blues that we know was from the country and it went to the city. No, it was exactly the opposite of that. You had people like, big, oh, come on, Russ. Not Big Mama Thornton. Bessie Smith and Bailey, Mama, my mind's gone blank.
That's okay.
But they would tour from the city.
Yeah.
They would tour out into like the sticks and do these shows where they put up a tent and, do this. And that's actually kind of how it got more distributed. And then you would have people who would listen to this and go, oh, I love this. I want to play this. And then you had people like Blind Willie Johnson, or Jefferson, or guys like that who would come into the city and be influenced and would play their amazing finger-picking, Piedmont-style stuff. So, I mean, I didn't know this. I just assumed like everybody else did. Oh, it came from slave chants and was in the country, and then people in the city picked it up. No, that's not how it actually.
Well, and I was just about to mention it when you said so, but if you do go to the hitmanbluesband.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. I'm going to tell you, this is not one of those newsletters where every day you get hit with them. It's like once a quarter, maybe.
I'm trying to do it monthly, but I really suck at this.
And if you do that, if you do sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a number of free songs. I don't know what they are because I did that a long time ago. I'm sure they're different now. And believe me, it is worth it. It is totally worth it. And then if you're smart after that, you'll go out and buy some more stuff. So at least that's the theory, I suppose.
Before I went off on this tangent, the thing was that I had asked people on the newsletter, what song should we leave out? Because that's always the problem. You only have a certain amount of time to, thank you. You only have a certain amount of time to play. And, this is our 9th album. We've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out what aren't we going to play. And then I'll say to the people in the band, okay, we're going to do this. Then, well, what about that? You got to play that song. Well, okay, but if we play that song, then we got to take this song. No, you can't take that song out. All right.
Yeah.
So there were a bunch of tunes that what I did is I put a list of like 8 or 9 songs and said, which ones should we leave out? And for the people who responded, which was a decent number, I was kind of surprised at some of the results. But 2 Minute Warning is one of the songs that they did not say to leave out. Yeah. So it's still in the set.
Oh, man. Yeah. So you have got to go. Everybody's got to go there right now and do that. Hitmanbluesband.com. You have to scroll down the page, sign up for the newsletter, and it allows you access to download some MP3s of some really incredibly songs. Gilman says he's signing up. 2 Minute Warning. Everybody
I don't know if
loves.
that's on the sampler, but if it's not,
Okay.
somebody wants it, I'll send it to you. Just like
Well, that
it's
one,
not a sampler, it's an album.
I love that one because of your explanation in the front of it. And I also love it because it is a place we've all been to before. You know,
all of my songs, almost all of, I'll qualify that. Almost all of the songs come from my own life, and the ones that don't, they come from people that I know. And because it doesn't make sense to me to write about something that I'm only imagining. And when I hear other people doing it, like when I hear a guy singing, a 25-year-old singing, I was born in Chicago, 1941. No, you weren't. Why are you even singing that? That's
yeah.
You
Yeah.
have no idea what that whole thing was like. You can't. So,
Well, I think that's the plot of Crossroads, isn't it? It's like he couldn't play the blues because he'd never been blue. And then the girl breaks up with him, and the guy goes, "Nah, play what you feel."
Well, everybody relates to the blues. It's just it depends on your time of life.
Yeah.
The blues is always there. You don't always need it, but when you do, it's there. And the blues isn't just when you're sad. When you're happy and you're celebrating, there's happy celebrating blues. When you're drunk, there's drunk blues. When you're sad, there's sad blues. I mean, the blues is like most other forms of music in that it covers a really wide range of life experience. And if the music moves you, that's great. There's a lot of crappy blues. There's a lot of crappy heavy metal. There's a lot of crappy jazz. I'm sorry, but there is. There's a lot of crappy rock and folk. And it's also great that you hear it and you're like, wow. One of the best live albums I have ever heard is an album called Road Rage by the group Great Big Sea. Now, unfortunately, they're no longer together, but it is one of my favorite albums of all time. You know why? Because of the audience. The audience and the tunes themselves. But if you ever get a chance to hear Road Rage, it's just a wonderful album. And it's not the kind of music that I would normally listen to.
Well, there's good music in every genre. I tell people that all the time. I hate rap. I hate country. I hate metal. And it's like the good stuff is good, no matter what genre. One of my favorite blues albums, and I have so many live blues albums. I was listening to one before the show by Duke Tomato and the Power Trio. It's called I Like My Job. It is incredible. But one of my favorites is B.B. King live from Cook County Jail.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of my favorites because of the social director that makes the announcement, who is, I think, probably aware that B.B. King is going to be very popular with the people in the jail. Right. But she may not be, he is known as the man and one of the greatest blues singers. And it's like the squarest introduction you could possibly imagine. But it's Duke Tomato, Tumato, and the Power Trio. And it's called I Like My Job. It's a live album, and it is. I think you'll really like it.
I'm writing it down, and I will make sure to hell with it, man. I'll buy it if it's I'll after we're done, man. I'll go on Amazon or whatever. And
I almost last night when we were chatting, or the other day, I almost sent you the link for Dale Watson's Chicken Shit Bingo, which is a live show he does where people actually bet on a chicken, like playing bingo and stuff. It is just amazing. But
I was not familiar with Dale Watson until you told me about him, and I am definitely going to have to get some of his stuff, man, because he He's a very authentic guy. On my Christmas Hanukkah list for my daughters, because I figured this time I'll actually do one. I put a couple of Danny Gatton albums that I don't have, because I'm a big Danny Gatton fan and have been for quite a long time. Since I was lucky enough to have seen him live, and I'm just sorry I didn't see him more. But this is what I'm talking about. Having friends tell you about stuff, we don't really have that anymore. Once you get past about 25,
yeah,
you don't get that anymore.
Well, but nobody's discovering it, and unless they have kids that turn them on to it. Chunk is doing a yeoman's job tonight. Chunk, first time he's been here to the show, and he's really blazing a new trail in whatever. It's just, well, you have a show and people do things. When did you officially know, okay, I want to be a musician for the rest of my life? I don't want to work in, become a doctor or a lawyer. When is that going to become my life's devotion? Not that you don't need to do other things to support your music, but when did you know music's going to be kind of the thread that my life is on?
Other than a short period when I was in first grade when I wanted to be an astronaut, always. But you have to understand, my father was a musician. So to me, the idea that, you sleep until noon or 1 o'clock and, you get up and you leave and you come home at 4 a.m. This was normal. I thought every kid's father did this. It wasn't until, I got older that I realized that, some people's fathers were like bakers or firemen or police or, whatever. I mean, to me, this was a normal way of making a living. Of course, the business changed considerably after DJs came in and really destroyed a lot of the business. People don't really understand that for a lot of musicians, our pay has not gone up for not 20 years, not 30 years, 40 or even 50 years. Our pay has stayed basically the same. Not for union gigs, but even union gigs have not gone up anywhere near as much. And if you went into a club in 1972 and you paid $5, well, that $5 is now worth about $37.
Yeah.
But people go into a club now and they say, "Oh, it's $10 cover at the door." And they're like, "Wow, you kidding? $10? I pay $10 for that."
Yeah. If there's even a cover.
If there's even a cover. And, my agent in England said, whatever gigs you play, there has to be a cover.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because people associate the value of the band with what they're paying.
Yes.
Nobody would ever in a million years expect to see, Eric Clapton for free.
Right.
Unless he was putting on a park concert,
Yeah.
But if people don't pay anything to see you perform, they figure that's what you're worth. You're worth nothing.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I went through this period. I was just voraciously consuming music. Used to have the cutout record store.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Or the used record store. You could go in and
I have a few of those, man.
Yeah, I have far too many. And the other thing that I remember very clearly, and this is different than radio now too, you could go into a real record store and they would have the top 20 songs for your town. Oh. It wouldn't just be for the country. It would be, and the record store I went to, it had Indianapolis, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles. It gave you, because they were different. There were regional bands. Bob Seger was a regional artist for a long, long time.
Wow.
And that has changed because bands used to get airplay locally on the radio. Never would that happen now. Never.
You know what it is now? Now it's social media. I'll tell you a real quick story. a friend of ours, their daughter Elizabeth, very, very talented, joined two other girls, one of whom is now transitioned to a boy, in a group called Choke Cherry, and they did a one song. And some guy on TikTok who's got 80 gazillion followers gave a 30-second pitch and said, hey, there's this group called Choke Cherry. They've got a song out. They have no followers on Spotify. Everybody should go and take a listen to them. At the end of the week, they had 145,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not streams. They got a lot more streams than that. But they got 145,000 followers from that one 30-second mention. Since then, there was a bidding war for them from rec companies and some management agencies. They came to New York. We saw them, and because they're from San Francisco, and they played a couple of dive bars, and then they played Otto's Shrunken Head. And these places don't hold many people, 75 people, maybe 50, 75, and it was packed. And then they just got back. They've been touring all over the Southwest, and they've come out with more stuff. And what happens, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go from there. But that's where it kind of has come now. You don't have radio breaking anybody.
No.
You have TikTok, you have Instagram to a smaller extent, and other kind of social media thing. Facebook is come and gone. It's good for people in bands, we advertise on that and stuff. But you're not going to break on Facebook. You're not, you're probably not going to break on Instagram.
Who's the guy with the red beard? Oliver.
North of North.
Yeah, Richmond, north of Richmond.
Richmond,
yeah. I mean, that's another example. One song, relatively powerful message, and bam, he's offered $8 million by a record company, and he even said, "No, I don't want to do that."
Right, but look at who he was appealing to. He was appealing to people who had a certain political point of view. And he actually turned around and said, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
The people who you're supporting, these are the people I'm singing about. I don't like them. Yes. And he lost a certain number of followers, but other people were like, yeah, so, it's okay. I still like the song because you could apply it to a lot of different things.
And I watched tons of the reaction videos to him, and it was amazing to me the number of working class people that were like, yeah, he gets it. We're getting the bad end of the stick here. And that is not cool at all. A band I really like, and they've been around for probably 10 years now. When I first started listening to them, I thought I was cool because I was on that front wave, but they're called Lake Street Dive. And they played every single alternative radio station that would video them. They did the Tiny Desk for NPR, and none of these things are easy to do necessarily. They did street covers of all sorts of songs, and that's how they got popular. Was K-Fog and KMNX and all these kind of alternative-ish stations and college stations, and they did them all, every single one of them. And that's kind of the success story now.
It's a whole different thing. You get somebody like Larkin Poe, and they spent a good couple of years consistently coming out with good content. Didn't hurt that they're young, they're pretty, but they're also very talented, and they deserve what they got. And they won a Grammy last year, and they damn well deserve it. And I'm glad that they got that. But that was what I mean. They broke on social media. They did not break from radio station. Now, this gentleman, Chunk Squad, is saying, just got to hit all the outlets and do shorts or clips because kids have no attention span. We're not going for kids because kids are not going to want. They've got to make their own reality. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie El Topo. In the movie El Topo, he picks up a kid, and in the middle of the desert, he has him dig a hole and bury a picture of his mother, his favorite toy, all the stuff. And he says, for you to become a person, you have to leave everything you love behind. Ask any kid who grew up when Barney the dinosaur was around what they think of Barney. I hate him because you have to kill everything that came when you were a child in order to become a person. Kids are still dealing with that. They're still finding their own way. They don't want to hear me.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear. They look at Beyonce and say, who's the old chick?
Yeah.
You know, this is not what they're going for. You can spend, and I know because I do this, you could spend hours a day following up every outlet, chasing down every possible lead, because here's the reality. And this is true for business as well as for music. 99 out of 100 things that you do are not going to work. You don't know which is the one that does.
Yeah.
So you've got to put everything you got into all 100, knowing that almost all of them are going to be an absolute waste of time. And you might never hit that one. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's amazing to me. There's two things. One is the youth of today do not own their own physical media.
No.
They lease it, and it comes through a stream. But I started a little radio station out in Utah for a school system, and I'm like, look, I want this music to be your music. I want you guys to have the music you like to listen to on it. Just give me your music and your MP3s and stuff. They all looked at me like I was crazy. They're all on Spotify or Apple Music. They don't own their own physical media, which is a little unnerving. And also, another thing you mentioned earlier, I'm sure you remember on the radio and even on MTV where they would say, hey, next hour we're going to debut the new hit, the new release from Elton John, or that's where you found the music. That's where the new music was, and it was treated as such. Now, look, the closest you're going to get to being served up something truly new or original is in a movie or a TV show, maybe, and you'll hear part of it and go, wow, I really like that. And then you'll go look it up because the radio isn't going to give it to you. By the time it gets to the radio, you've already been pounded in the head with it for a couple of months.
And that's the thing. Like, I get a lot of good morning from Italy. I get a lot of like emails from different companies and stuff like that. Sync music, SYNK. That's the music that you hear on commercials and in TV shows and movies. That is the big push for every single band, and has been for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Because, 3 years ago, we were getting out of the pandemic. It was always big, but not like now. Now it's like, if you have a snowball's chance in hell of getting anything going, for most of you, if you're not going to have somebody on TikTok with 1 million followers, 3 million followers promoting you, if you don't have that, here's the way that you can maybe get something. And then it's this whole thing about all the music supervisors and who you got to get hold of, and yada, yada, yada. It's the musical part of it is very, very, very small at this point.
Yeah.
I have songs that I've been meaning to, new songs that I've been meaning to work on, and man, I ain't got time. I'll make the time, but just too much other crap I got to take care of for the business end of it. And again, not knowing if it's going to work or not.
Mm-hmm.
It might not, and it probably won't, but you got to try it.
Well, if you're lucky, you've got a director like Tarantino that's like a musicophile of some kind that says, "No, I want this song. I know this song." But otherwise, back in the day, I was listening to, is it Taylor Hackford? I can't remember who directed The Big Chill, but he said we couldn't make that movie today. And the guy's like, "Why couldn't you make that?" He goes, "When we made that movie, those Motown songs, I could get them for like $5,000 a piece for all of the rights for the movie and the soundtrack and everything else. You could never do that today." Much like John Landis said, to make the Blues Brothers movie, he couldn't have done at any other time than when that was made, because a lot of those guys weren't really working that much, they weren't making that much. So he's like, no, they were all extremely anxious to be in a movie and to do something in a movie. That's just not the case anymore. Well, you take a show like Yellowstone, and that show actually has a lot of red dirt, Texas, Oklahoma musicians in it. And that was huge for them, because you can make a huge living in this part of the country being that kind of artist, but you don't necessarily travel too much outside of that. Yeah, occasionally they'll go to Chicago or some other places, but this is where it's at. That show exposed a lot of other people to that music, and I guess that's what you're hoping for. But it's not about the music as much as it should be. Corporations own radio stations, corporations own music. There's a direct conduit to that guy that programs not one station, not 10 stations, 1,000 stations. And whatever he decides, that's what's going to be on the Hot AC chart that week.
Well, because the DJs do not decide what's going to be going on. We were talking about this. You're not going to have a DJ locking himself in the room and playing one song for 24 hours anymore. It doesn't work that way.
No.
What was the song? That'll Be the Day?
That'll Be the Day.
For people who don't know this, there was one DJ. What was his name? Madman
Mancuso.
Right. When he got Buddy Holly's That'll Be the Day, he locked the door. Nobody could get into the studio, and he played it for like 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And the publicity was amazing. But it was just, you're not going to get that now.
Well, I'll be very honest. I've said this many times before. I hated being a disc jockey. But when I started in radio, that's what you did. There weren't a ton of talk shows. Maybe you do some high school sports or something, but you were going to be a DJ. And you had definitive rotations. There was a clock, and for every part on the clock, there was a different colored dots, and there was a little cards just like these 8.5 by 11 cards that had the title, name of artist, intro, whether it had a cold ending, all that kind of stuff, but it would have a dot. So your hot songs were red, and you went and got through there, took one out, got the corresponding record or cart, put it in the back into the rotation, close it, and that's how you compiled everything. But you got to do, this was so cool. They would say, don't go off format. I'm giving you 2 songs an hour. You get to pick. You get to play anything you want. I know we're a hard rock station. If you want to play White Christmas in the middle of May, you can. I don't care. Those are your 2 things. So I don't want to hear you complain about the format ever, because you get 2 songs. That's a 10%. It's, if every song's 3 minutes, that's 10% of the hour. And actually, it's more than that if you consider commercials. But that would never happen now. And by the way, that DJ is only in the studio for 20 minutes. He walks in and he, hey, that was another big hit from Alice in Chains. And coming up, we have Boom, 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 and Boom right here on KZ 105. Okay, that segment's done. And he's got to do that 3 times for every hour. He's on for 3 hours. So times 9. he's done. He goes out and does an appearance, or he does another thing. There are weekends that you can drive by a radio station and there's not a single car there. That station's on autopilot for the whole weekend. And what if there's a tornado? What if there's a train derailment? What if? It's just radio is dying a slow. It's like a brontosaurus in a tar pit. Not going to go down like that, but it's going down.
But this is why you have community radios and, the internet radio stations that are also broadcasting on FM, and things like what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're here on YouTube, and let me see, have financially successful music artists switch to just writing and selling musical hooks? No, that's. But what I don't know if you've noticed, Julian, but a lot of times what you'll see on songs now is there are like 10 writers, which to me is insane.
Yeah.
Because what they'll do is they'll get writers on because they have connections, and they'll give them credit. What used to happen in the old days, like everybody knows that, Willie Dixon wrote all these blues tunes. No, he didn't. He was the guy in the recording studio who, when the form came in, he would put his name down as the writer. Now, not to say that Willie Dixon was not a great writer, because he was. And it was just, he was the guy who was savvy enough to know that, somebody's going to get money for this. Might as well be me.
Yeah.
And he signed it up. Songs now, they don't just sell hooks. They do sell songs, but they will have a crap load of people getting, the credit for it. And one of the really big things for, if you're on a streaming thing like Spotify, is having a featured artist.
Oh, yeah.
So what you have is you release a song. The song does okay, maybe it doesn't, whatever. And then you maybe have a friend of a friend who knows somebody famous, and you say, can you come on and just sing with me on this chorus or do this part? And now you re-release it featuring yada, yada, yada. And now all of a sudden you've got, 750,000 streams because that person's on it. That's what the deal is now. It's the same song.
Yeah.
And you will not hear any significant difference, but now all of a sudden it's going to be famous because that's where we are.
How many, not just albums, but albums, CDs, downloads, how many do you think you have?
Oh, Jesus. I don't. I haven't.
Oh, I know what I can ask you. What? Oh, I could ask you all 5 questions.
Okay.
I'm only going to ask you.
Answer it this way: not enough to actually make a profit on any of it.
Well, what was the first album you bought with your own money?
It was either Black Sabbath, or it was David Bowie's "The Man Who Sold the World," the original one with the cartoon cover.
Yeah,
because I like the cartoon cover, and then I like the album. But I think it was the very. I think it might have been Black Sabbath, and I had albums before that, but my parents bought them for me.
I got you. Yeah. Those don't. I had the same thing. Those don't count. Mine was the Doobie Brothers. What were once vices are now habits. That's the one with Blackwater and Eyes of Silver and all that.
Apparently, nobody was more surprised than they were when they heard Blackwater on the radio and found out that it was a hit, because that was like a last-minute addition to the album. They had no idea.
Yeah,
they were like, "That's the song that they're."
And that song was everywhere. It was a giant hit. What
we saw them last year. And I really did not appreciate what a varied stuff they covered the gamut. Every style of music you could think of, they Well, not every, but a
Well,
lot.
no, in a long period of time. Jesus is just all right, all the way up to Minute by Minute, and What a Fool Believes, and
Yeah, the Michael McDonald.
Michael McDonald years, the Tom Johnston year.
Yeah.
What was the first concert you went to?
Oh, well, the first concert I went to was to see my dad. I was, I think, probably 3 or 4 years old, and my mother yelled at me because I kept saying, "What's the beat?" My father had taught me about beats. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and I was, "What's the beat?" Is it? And then just like, just listen to the music.
So, what was the first kind of popular music, not a member of your family concert you went to?
Oh, jeez. I don't remember. The first big concert I went to was the ELP Talkers concert at Madison Square Garden.
All right. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. That was, people that listened to ELP, it was always like, oh, that guy really knows music. He's not listening to, the knack like I am. He really knows music.
No, well, that was much later. I saw somebody mention that the gentleman from the UK mentioned that he felt Slade was one of the best, British bands. I saw them at the it's on 14th Street. I'm ready to say the Palladium, but that wasn't it. It did start with a P, in Manhattan. And I saw them there with Nobby with his mirrored things. And you saw I saw the Who for Quadrophenia. And we saw the Who just last year. Joanne, my wife, did like this bucket list of concerts. And we saw the Who, and they had a 14-piece orchestra, at least 14-piece behind them. And I heard Tommy, the way Townsend always probably was in his head, thinking of it when they recorded the album. And when that album came out, I believe I was, my first band, I was 12. And I was the singer. I wasn't playing guitar yet. And we did a bunch of stuff from Tommy. And it's funny because out of that band, Ira Gitlin, the guitar player, is now a very well-known and excellent bluegrass player. Mark Madonna was the keyboard player. He's still playing keyboards.
He was just here earlier, right?
No, that was Mark Marotnik.
Oh, okay.
It's another friend of mine I haven't seen him since like probably 1968 or something. And that is the one good thing about social media, or one of the good things, is that you reconnect with people that you haven't. You always wonder how the story ended, or at least how the story is going, and now you can actually find that out without having to actually go to a reunion. Like my 50th high school reunion is going to be this year, and as far as I know, we're not having one. I didn't go to my high school graduation. We didn't have a prom. We basically like got high and had gang fights. That was typical Queens high school experience.
Now this guy here, Kim Warfield, the Wolf, I met him my freshman year of college, and he turned me on to a drummer. I'll bet you know who this is, Billy Cobham.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah. Come on. I'm from farm country in Indiana. Billy Cobham, please. The cob part, I thought, corn, of course. That's all that's out here. But he turned me on to that, and that gets into what you were talking about. People turn you on to new kinds of music. Scott LaRock says the Brain Salad Surgery record was crazy with the fold-out Geiger
cover. Geiger is one of my favorite artists.
Oh, here's a great question. Would love your thoughts on Ginger Baker.
Ginger Baker was, first of all, he was not, from people I know who dealt with him, said he's not a particularly nice guy. Quick temper. He was great for the time that he was in, what he did. I mean, some people said, "Oh, he's the greatest drummer." I'm sorry, but no, he's not. He was a great drummer for the style that he played and for what he did, and nobody can take that away from him. Was he an all-around drummer? No. Was he on the level of Max Roach or Buddy Rich or somebody on that level.
Gene Krupa.
Gene Krupa was another one.
Yeah.
Was he on that level? No, he wasn't. But then again, what he did, those guys would not do that because it's a different. It's like when people talk about a guitar player, right? And they say like, oh, well, this guy was the greatest. And then I'll say, well, what about a guy like Tommy Emmanuel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, he's amazing, but he couldn't do this. Well, he doesn't need to do that. That's not what he does.
Right.
It's like asking why an elephant can't climb a tree. It's not what they do.
Well, don't get me into the lyrics of Catch-22 Blues. Look at that guy.
Okay.
That's the Tom Gully AC/DC AI. Let's get rid of that right now. How do you feel?
There's another guy. I mean, apparently, some critic said something like, AC/DC has done 11 albums that sound exactly the same. And he said, I'm very offended by that. You're completely wrong. AC/DC has done 12 albums that sound exactly the same. He's got a sense of humor and he knows what he does. And he's great at what he does.
Right.
You're not going to put him in the Count Basie band. It's not going to work. He's not Freddie Green. But,
well, it's also amazing to me, like a guy like John Popper, and you hear "Run Around" or whatever song that big hit, and it's just, as a harmonica player, I listen to it and I'm just like, that is awful. I hate it. I can't. You might as well be playing a flute. It's my own personal bias and harsh judgment. Then you hear him play not that way, like a more traditional. He's incredible, and there's a lot of musicians that are that way. That are much more versatile than the sound they're known for.
We were doing a jam session at 40 Worth, which oddly enough was at 40 Worth Street in Manhattan. And one day we get there and the manager comes up and he says, listen, there's a band that Billy Graham is sponsoring them, and he's taking them under his wing, and he'd like them open up and do like a set. And I said, yeah, sure. And out walked the biggest harp player I had ever seen in my life. And they went and it was them, and they did a great show. It was wonderful. And they played for about half an hour, and then they went off and we opened up the jam. So I had no idea who they were.
I love mashup groups. I don't know if you're familiar with Hayseed Dixie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, when we go to Scotland, we're going to be staying with some good friends of ours, Graham Richmond and his wife Allison, and that we're going to go up a day early so that we don't have to drive from London for 7 hours up to Scotland and then go right to the gig. So go to the day early, and he said, Hayseed Dixie is playing on the 30th. And he said, I was going to get tickets for that, but there's another group that's playing a 10-minute walk from the house. And they do like their traditional, like Celtic, not traditional, they're like a modern Celtic group.
Right.
And, if you want to go see them, and I said, well, gee, I'd kind of like to see Hayseed Dixie. He said, yeah, but it's, it's like a 40-minute drive and you're going to be driving for 7 hours. I said, yeah, okay. Point made. We'll see the look, but yeah.
Their version of Thunderstruck is incredible. It's the anvil and all of that out in the barn, and they open it up driving the lawnmower into the barn. It's fabulous. I love those kind of sort of mashup groups, I mean, I even like the Sesame Street Born to Spell, where they did a Springsteen thing, and it's Bert and Ernie, and it's the exact sort of, anyway. Musicians, by and large, I have found, are very there's very few. It's a cutthroat business, and I get that. And you always want your band to be the headliner and all, but musicians, unlike a lot of businesses, are very accepting other forms of music or other musicians, or it's like, yeah, sit in and jam with us. When I got here to Dallas, I was playing open stages, just me and a pig nose amp and my green bullet, and I invented this character named Brother Tom, who was this sort of a preacher. How many of y'all been to church tonight? Just as I thought, a bunch of goddamn sinners. And I'd play Amazing Grace, and I'd do comedy and stuff. And this guy, the Texas Musician of the Year, I think he was in the Final Four for Nashville Star, which was their America's Got Talent on the Nashville network. He just came up to me and said, that was pretty ballsy. And I just said, hey, can't dance. It's too hot to screw. He goes, what are you doing? And I said, I can't find a band to play with around here, so I'm just playing these open stages. He goes, well, I got a band. You can play with our band. And yeah, that's how it sort of happened. But I love how accepting musicians are. At least that's been my experience. Occasionally you run into a dick, but
I mean, good music. I've never found a good musician who wasn't like that. And my father had a saying when he dealt with people who were just being jerks. His stock line was, "That's okay. You're not good enough to be humble."
Yeah.
The really good guys, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of really great musicians, and the guys who are really good, they're always self-effacing, they're humble, they understand that this is a journey that has no end. The story is that they asked Horowitz when he was like 90 and said, you still practice 3 hours a day. Why? And he said, I think I'm starting to get it.
Hey, I was in this Jay's band for a number of years, and when you have a band that's not just tight musically, but that's tight with each other, there's nothing better. And to this day, we see each other, and it's a brotherhood. It's a down to your soul type thing, and those moments on stage, you just can't replay. Oh, here's one. Oh, here's a good question. Hey, Russ, what's your Mount Rushmore of bass players?
Well, obviously James Jamerson, Paul Chambers, Ron Carter, and for the fourth one, and boy, it would be so hard to narrow it down to one more. Just because there's so many, man.
Yeah,
it's tough. So I would leave I would just put a picture of the bass for the fourth one.
I'll bet you that you've seen this video. It's Pete Seeger with Son Terry and Sonny Boy Williamson doing Key to the Highway.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's on an old TV show, and Pete Seeger, here's a few friends of mine, this folk singer.
Yeah.
That every now and then we tell a few tales out of school and, whatever, but that's that kinship amongst musicians. That's,
I actually, I had the pleasure of meeting Johnny Copeland, unfortunately under, tough circumstances. He just had a heart transplant and it ended up failing, and he passed away not long after that. But he said that he actually wrote Key to the Highway. He was in at a recording session, and they had another session going on down the hall, and he walked in and he said, like, we need another song, and he kind of sketched, according to him, and he sketched it out, and he and they did it. And he said, but I never got my name on a copyright for that. So it's like, oh, okay. But I have no reason to doubt him. He had no reason to lie, but that's just that is a standard kind of, you're at a jam session, call out Key to the Highway.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a guy, he's local here. His name is Jeff Hobson. And he has a blues song. He's a Red Dirt country guy, and he has a blues song called "The Walkin' Talkin' Highway Stalkin'." uh, Get the Hell Out of Here Blues. And it's all about a woman that has a yappy dog and he's had enough. It's kind of a funny song, but it is a blues song. And I told him, I'm like, man, I love that song. It's really one of my favorite songs of yours. He goes, it's the worst song I've ever written. It was right. It is without question the very worst song I've ever written. And I just laughed, and so did he, because he's got a lot of brilliant stuff. But anyway, let's see here. Father Knows Best. Great advice. Oh, Father Knows Best. She's talking about you're not good enough to be humble. Let's see here. What? I don't even know what some of these people are talking about. Anyway, yeah. It's and you've got a gig. Let's see here, Thursday night.
No.
I thought you did. I thought it was at.
No, I had a gig December 28th, but it turns out that it's actually June 28th because this place is that booked up. We're playing for anybody on Long Island.
I thought it was at the place you play the Tring, the Tran, you play there a lot.
Well, Tremaine's been closed for a long time, so it's not there. Maybe that's an old thing or got in.
Here we go. It's Blues Bar Tring.
Oh no, that's over.
Oh, that's you did that already.
I haven't updated the website because I'm a moron, but I will take care of that.
Well, no, you've been overseas.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to catch up. We've got for those people who live on Long Island, we'll be playing at the Bellport Library on January 5th, which is a Sunday afternoon from I think 2 to 5 or something like that, 2 to 4, and it's free. I mean, we're getting paid, but it's free for you. Yeah. So. And we are going to have the not the full band. We're going to have the 8-piece band. So we'll have a trumpet and tenor sax and the 2 backup singers, and then the bass band, drums, bass, guitar, and keys. So if you can make it down to that, that'll be fine. Your
organ player, I've told you this before, phenomenal. I could listen to the solo from Green Thing on a loop the rest of my life and be quite happy.
Now that was Bobby Forrester,
who
unfortunately passed away not long after that, not long after the album was released. And then our keyboard player was Kevin Reimer, who was my keyboard player in the new wave band that I had in the 80s called Candy, which oddly enough, some lunatic in California found like our stuff and is doing an EP of it. I have no idea why.
Somebody's really hilarious. I don't know if you know the story behind Richard Kuklinski.
Nope.
Yeah, this is not a band. They called him the Iceman. He's a well-known serial killer. Yeah, so that's the kind of hilarity that my listeners provide.
Was he the guy who stuck the bodies in a ice chest that they didn't know when they were killed because they all these very interesting ways of psychotic people dealing with their
body count is the term the kids use now for the number of partners you've had throughout your life. And I'm like, this gentleman's been married for 20 years, so he doesn't talk about things like that. And he's a gentleman. Look at him; he's wearing a top hat and everything.
Now, I was never into that whole scalps, like how many exes have you crossed out, because that's not the kind of person I am.
Right.
We'll be playing live in the U.S. in 2025. We will be. The trouble is, and this has been a problem for a while, we can't get an agent here. It's and for a while, it partly my fault. For a while, I was saying, well, I'm not going to go out without the full band, and the full band's 9 pieces. Now I'm like, I've been experimenting and doing our stuff with a quartet. So, drums, bass, guitar, and keys. And it works. It works better with a quintet when we have at least the sax player, but it definitely works with a quartet. And I'm trying to see if there's a way that we can book, stuff with that kind of a configuration. But without an agent, it is really, really tough. And even with an agent, it ain't that easy.
Yeah.
But the real thing is, how many people can you get to show up at a show? Can you get 200? Can you get 300? You want to play a place like the Brooklyn Bowl, you need to be able to get 800 or 900 people to get into there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of tough. It's you don't know how many people are going to show up to something in particular. And here's a little clue for all of you. When you see a band saying, for circumstances beyond our control, our gig at da-da-da has been canceled, the reason is they did not sell enough advance tickets. If you want to see a band, buy a ticket in advance, because there's no way of knowing how many people are going to show up at the door. And if you like a band and you want to support them, buy your ticket in advance so that they know this many people have paid for a ticket, because otherwise the venue's just going to shut them down and say, it is not worth our opening up. We played places like, for instance, again, the Brooklyn Bowl. They say that it costs them, now dig this,
Yeah.
$5,000 to open the place for the night.
Wow.
Now, do I believe that?
Yeah.
I don't know, because they also have actual bowling. I mean, people do pay for bowling, and they sell drinks, and the drinks ain't going to be cheap.
No.
And they sell food, and their food ain't going to be cheap. I mean, it's not, Rockland Steakhouse, but but they say that for them to put on a show costs them $5,000, which means that if the tickets are $50, they need to sell 100 tickets to break even. Now, not every band can get $50 for a ticket. Right. So if they can only get $20 or $15 for a ticket, now
you really got to pack it.
Now you got to pack it. Yeah. And the Brooklyn Bowl, as I said, holds 900 people.
Right.
So if you've only got 100 people there, that might be great at Joe's place down the block, but it ain't going to work for the Brooklyn Bowl. And even for Joe's place down the block, buy a ticket in advance if you can. This is one of the real ways you can help support live music, because if you don't buy that ticket in advance, there's a very good chance you're not going to go that night. You might plan on going, but you have to invest in it. Whereas if you're going to go see the Eagles, you're buying a ticket in advance, and you could be anywhere this short of being dead. You're going to show up there.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of even good smaller bands. They are forced to play clubs where maybe it's a smaller club, not as experienced, whatever. And the deals they have to make, it's like, okay, we get the door, you keep all the food and beverage, or it's we get this, you get that. The way they dole it out is, if you have leverage over the club, you want a definitive amount of money. If you don't have that, it's okay, we are going to try and get as many of our people here as possible. So we should get that. And you guys can keep the food and beverage. Frankly, a lot of clubs are cool with that. They're like, well, if you bring enough people in here, we'll make more on the food and beverage than you're going to get anyway.
If it's a nightclub, yes. If it's like a theater or, a pack or something like that, no. And the other thing is that they will take a portion of your merch. So, you have your own merch people selling your merch, but they'll say that, and something that people don't know is that when you go to see a major act at a major venue, a Coliseum or whatever it is, a lot of times the act will be told how much merch they're going to sell. So the promoter or the venue rather will say, well, according to our calculations, you're going to sell $25,000 worth of merch. So we get 45% of that. If you don't sell $25,000 worth of merch, we don't care. You're going to pay us 45% of, our 20, what we figure you're going to sell. And that's just too bad. If you don't want to do it, you can't work here. So they're getting it kind of you got Ticketmaster, who's throwing on insane, ridiculous kind of, okay, you got your ticket fee, you have your tax fee, you have your sales fee, you have your convenience fee, you have your, because we want to, what are you going to do about a fee? So now you've got a $50 ticket that costs you $90.
Yeah. Well, and
the band doesn't see crap from that.
I heard, and I've heard this figure several times, it's not just once. Taylor Swift makes $1 million in merch. Now that's gross.
What?
Every concert.
I believe it.
Every concert, because she's not selling any $20 t-shirts.
No.
She's, it's 50. And that's serious coin, that's a business.
Yes, but Taylor, you're saying yes. And forget Elon Musk made, or Jeff Bezos made this much from his website.
Yeah.
Yes, but he's one of the only guys who's making that from his website.
Right.
Nobody else is making that kind of money or even close.
And she, the second that she got popular enough, decided, okay, I'm controlling this music. I'm going to, she had that deal where she said, okay, all of it's going here. And that is the exception that proves the rule.
Well, I mean, she followed Oprah's advice, which is make sure your signature is on everything.
Yeah.
You're the one in control. You run it. And, she is, whether you like her music or not, as a person and also as a business person, she checks all the boxes, man. She does everything right. She takes care of her people. She takes care of people who are not her people, but that she wants to take care of. And, she's right up in her business. She knows exactly what's going on. And she understands her crowd. And this crowd is going to be with her when they're in their teens and when they're in their 20s and probably when they're in their 30s.
Yeah. And I heard that as it regards the people that don't like her, that the hater's going to hate anyway.
Yes, I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of her music. I've listened to some of it. She's written at least 300 or 400 songs. I can't say that I've even scratched the surface of that. But for the music that I've heard in general, doesn't particularly knock me out. But that's, I don't hate it. I just go on my way for it. But so what? Who cares what I think?
Yeah, and then a lot of stuff this day and age, I go, it's not for me. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't created for me. It's just for somebody else. I might still like it. I'm a huge Katy Perry fan. There, I said it again on this show. I like a whole bunch of her songs. Taylor Swift, not as many. But I don't think you can close yourself down. You just can't quit trying stuff.
But I mean, I didn't like the Grateful Dead. When people would say, "Oh, do you like the, you liked it?" Nah, not really. And then I realized that there was actually quite a few songs that I really did like. I used to say I didn't like Elvis. I changed my mind when I heard the Sun Sessions, because I never heard that. What I heard was, Viva Las Vegas and that kind of stuff, because that's when I grew up. But then when I got older and I actually listened to the Sun Sessions, I said, "Wow, this guy could really sing," and he really had soul. He meant what he was singing about. Because to me, that's the only thing that really matters. Do I believe you?
I have a live version from like K-Fog in Seattle, I think it is. It's an independent station that has people in to do concerts and stuff. Does them really well. And it's a friend of the devil. And I'm like, oh, maybe I do like the Grateful Dead. It kind of sucked me in there. Scott LaRock says, searching Russell Alexander on Spotify brings up U.S. Marine Band.
That's because you have to search Hitman Blues Band.
Yeah, you have to search the Hitman Blues Band, and then it'll bring up.
Who the hell knows who Russell Alexander is?
Yeah, it's the Hitman. That's what we go for, the Hitman. And That distinctive look, that I got to tell you, it stopped me in my tracks when I first saw it on Facebook. I'm like, Hitman Blues Band. Okay, I got to look into this because it's got so much attitude. And what do you want to do if you're in a band? You want to kill, you want to slay them. You want to, it just has just some gravitas to it.
Another thing my father told me, and I don't want to sound like broken record here, but my father was not a particularly educated man. Although he's the only one in my family who actually got a PhD, which was an honorary degree from a college that he had taught at. But he said, when you walk off stage and you're in the audience, everybody should know you're in the band. Now, if you're in a grunge band, okay, that's different. But it's a uniform. Cops wear a uniform. That's how you know they're cops. Doctors, nurses wear a uniform. That's how you know that they're. When you go to a university, the professors used to wear a particular, style of clothing. And that's how you knew that they were professors. Same thing with a band. When I see guys playing in a band, like heavy metal guys got this stuff down. You're watching a heavy metal band. A lot of jazz guys, they wear a suit with a tie and a collared shirt. I've seen rock bands, man, and some blues bands. They look like they just walked out of their job as an accountant.
Yeah.
Or they just walked, I don't. You're an entertainer.
Yeah.
Yes, the music is a big part of it, obviously. But you're here to give people a cathartic experience. These people got up off their asses and got in their car and drove to see you, and they maybe paid money at the door to see you, and now they're paying for one beer what they could buy a six-pack for, and they're doing it to see you. You owe them to look the part.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Paul Anka who said, the boys get shirts. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Oh yeah. You got it. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube a lot. They had some sort of pirated, somebody started rolling tape when Paul Anka was talking to his band, and he read them the riot act. He's like, you guys come in here and you look like a ransom note, okay? The boys get shirts. The boys get shirts. And by the way, just in case any of you are confused, nobody came here to see you. They came to see me. I'm the star of the show. That's what they want to see. Now, you are a super important part of this, maybe even more important than me, because if you F up, I sound bad. All right? So get your act together. Showing up 15 minutes early, we're not having it. Yeah, you ought to listen to it. But that's the best part is the boys get shirts.
I'll have to check that out.
The boys get shirts. Let's see here. We got, have you ever heard of the band Angel Corpse?
No.
I didn't think you had. Let's see here. I do like this comment, like the Tubes used to dress.
Yes.
Yes. The Tubes, one of my very favorite bands of all time.
Or the New York Dolls. You had absolutely no confusion as to what you were seeing there, and you would not mistake them for the audience.
Oh, check this out. Julian Zeter says Ozzy wouldn't hire a musician who showed up to an audition in street clothes.
Good for him.
Yeah. Let's see here. Has Hitman ever heard of goth bad boy King Cobra JFS? He's signed to Deathbed Tapes. Smells good.
King Cobra.
These are my listeners.
King Cobra is kind of a generic name, so I might have heard of them.
Yeah,
but I don't know offhand.
Yeah, I don't.
Good record label name though.
Yeah. The Tubes were such a. And I don't know that there's anybody necessarily, maybe Tenacious D or somebody like that, that's doing. They're playing music. They happen to play music I really like, but they're also doing performance art.
Yes.
At the same time. So let's see here. I understand what you're saying, Russell, but do you think there are exceptions? Springsteen dressed like his father because that's what his father wore to work. It was part of the image.
But that was his image. His image was the guy from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Same way that little Steven, his image was the kind of like rogue guy from New Jersey who, talked and walked a certain way and looked a certain way. Springsteen, that was part of it. The same way that I said, a grunge band, they're going to dress the way that they go because that's the image that they're doing. You're not going to see, you'd be disappointed if you saw Nirvana come out in a suit and tie. It just doesn't work.
Springsteen, Clarence Clemens never dressed like Bruce. He was the big man. He had his own aura and it fit into the whole deal. By the way, and I'm only saying this because you're here. There is a DVD. I think it's only DVD. I might have it in Blu-ray release. It's called Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, The Legendary No Nukes Performances. And if you remember the No Nukes concerts, they had a double album that was out. And there was, I think, maybe Rosalita, and they did the Detroit medley, but that was it. Well, he actually played 2 nights and they shot it all and they recorded it all. So you get a CD and then you get, I think, DVD and Blu-ray. And there's a little documentary about it too, because they shot all that stuff. They had it on film. So you get Jungle Land, Do It All Night, Badlands, all of that stuff. I don't know if you're a Springsteen fan or not, but it is
all of those, yeah,
freaking incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I've been telling people about it because I'm a huge Springsteen fan. I didn't know a thing about it until, I don't know, 2 years ago. And it's
amazing that things like that get kind of lost in the get lost in the onslaught of stuff. A lot of people don't know that Jethro Tull came out with Thick as a Brick too.
I'm not, and I go so deep into Ian Anderson that I have like Rupee's Dance. I have a whole bunch of his side stuff. I should be.
It has been out for quite some time, and it's thick as a brick. 40 years later.
Man.
So
I have some of all things Boz Scaggs greatest hits live. And it's not on a big stage or anything like that. It's just, it's not an elaborate accompaniment, but he's got a band there that does the trick. I also got one, it's out in the car right now, that I got from Japan. Excuse me. It's released in Japan and it's incredible. There's a lot of stuff out there that, like you say, it just went under the radar.
There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much you can really do and listen to. And the other thing is that, CDs, cars don't have CD players anymore. Computers don't have CD players anymore. Laptops don't have CD players anymore. What we started doing on the last tour, and we're going to continue this, is everything has USB ports. So we started putting 2 albums on a flash drive and putting I'm gonna do a better one, but while I was in England, I made up these little Hitman Blues Band logos that I stick on there, and the other side it has the name of the albums that are on there, and sell those. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not that thrilled about the presentation of it, but I gotta admit, I stick it. I tested one out. I put it in my USB port in my car, and the album cover came up, and the name came up, and all stuff. And what I do is I put 2 albums on there, along with a folder with all the graphics, along with a folder with all the lyrics. So there you go.
Well, and all of your lyrics are on your website.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and my car does have a CD player in it, and waiting for somebody in the room to make fun of me about it. The thing of it is, I have 800 at last count CDs.
Oh boy.
And the local used CD place just closed. There's another one here in Dallas, but the one I went to all the time, been in business since 1993, and that's where I found stuff. But you do hit a ceiling of new releases. Now you can go on Amazon and probably get most things that you're looking for in CD if you try real hard.
Right.
But there is a point at which people weren't purchasing them in mass at record stores, and instead we're purchasing them with, oh no, I'm keeping this forever. So you didn't replenish that supply probably around, I want to say 2010. It just boom. If you want anything before that, great. If you want anything after that, good luck. Unless it's regional or a specialty thing, you're not going to find it. Yes, Soviet says that's sad. I'm waiting for Terry Nee to make fun of my car, but he hasn't yet. No, my previous Jaguar had a changer in it, so I could put 6 in there. My current one, it's just 1 at a time, which, it gets back to that whole thing of, and we may have talked about this before. You used to listen to an album. Now you buy a single,
Right.
Because albums had concepts, and frankly, I think bands profited from that. In other words, music grows on you. There are some albums that I objectively can look at and go, okay, there's one good song on that album, and the rest of them are kind of crappy, but I like them because I heard them so many times on the album. You drop the needle down and you're listening for 20 minutes now, unless you want to get up and do all the rest of it. There's the Alone Again Naturally album by Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Right.
Has the one song and then a bunch of sort of British stage songs or something. They're not that great, but I like them because I listen to the album so much.
But one of our main hired gun sax player in England, Julian Greaves, plays with Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Okay.
Still, like it's so.
Oh yeah, there's a song "Thunder and Lightning" that he does, and it's there was an era in the early 70s, maybe a little in the late 60s, that pop songs sounded really poppy. There was a specific orchestration of them, and instruments were very specific. And it's definitely from that era. He's wearing a giant sweater that's like got a G and an OS on the other side of it. It's
Well, the thing is that when we had albums, because if you were like me, you were too lazy to like lift the needle up.
Yeah.
You had to listen to the whole side of the album.
Uh-huh.
And there were a number of songs that I can think of offhand that I really didn't like the first, second, third, or fourth time that I heard them. And then the fifth or sixth time I started, and I was used to them, I started, whatever it was that I missed the first few times, then I got. And then they ended up becoming songs that I particularly liked. And that wouldn't happen now. Because now you have a CD player, and you put the CD in, and there's a song, I don't really feel like listening to that song. You skip over it. And if you just get the single, you never hear it. Now, when I come out with an album, I put a certain amount of effort into deciding which song is going to go where, how the order is going to go.
Yeah.
But I know that very few people are actually going to listen to it from beginning to end. They're going to listen to it maybe once straight through, and then they'll start skipping and, doing things. Now, there's this, an album that Joe Jackson came out with last year called What a Racket, which my producer, Bob Stanner, had told me about, and I bought it. And I put it on, and I made myself listen to the whole album 4 or 5 times through, every song. And I did it over a period of about 2 or 3 days. And that's when I started really, getting it. And if I just listened to the whole album once, I would have said, yeah, there's one or two good songs, but it's not really for me. It's a great album. It's great. They're just everything about it. The concept, the arrangement, the way that he did it, everything on it. It's called What a Racket, and it is not anything like you would expect from Joe Jackson. But what it is the backstory is that there was a guy who wrote for the English music halls in the early 1900s, and he got very popular. And then he went to the World War I, Great War, and he got killed, and his stuff got lost. Nobody listened to it, and they found the stack of his songs, and they recreated with the original instrumentation and with a guy who really knows how to sing that style. The album's great, but it took me a number of listens to understand that. You're not going to get that from most people anymore.
No. And
I only did it because my friend told me about it, and I said, let me give this a fair shot.
Yeah. Well, the concept album is gone. When I refer people to a concept album, it's always the same one: Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I point to that one is they tell a story on the album that defines exactly what that concept is. And even stuff, Son of a Sailor by Jimmy Buffett.
No.
That's a concept album. That's a set of songs that is somewhat interrelated. And you just don't get that anymore. But they were smart to do it because they knew people were going to listen to it long play. They were going to listen to the songs.
His people, his parrot heads, they will listen to every single note repeatedly. Yep.
Yeah. It's
hey, Terry Nee, your sister did you a favor then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which ELP album?
And also Seals and Crofts.
No.
Here you go. Tom had every Boy George album. No. Culture Club, not Boy George. When they broke up, I had to divorce myself with that whole thing. Let's see. Sarah, have you ever heard any Thundercat?
Have you heard of Thundercat?
Fantastic bassist.
I have not, but I'll write it down. I'm taking a bunch of notes here because there's a lot of stuff that I want to check out. Let's see. Thundercat.
Well, I have taken up way too much of your time.
Yes, I need to hit the loo.
I need to eat food, sleep. But man, it's always great to talk to you. And I love your music. I can't get enough of it. I highly recommend that you folks go out and get some of the Hitman Blues Band's music. And of course, as we've talked about, you can go to hitmanbluesband.com, scroll down, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get, 5 or 10,
I think it's 10. I think I put 10 or 11 songs on there. It's basically what I thought was, you have all these groups now that are saying free album, just pay for postage, and we'll send you our CD. And I've listened to interviews with a number of these people because, this is something I was interested in. I want to know if it worked. And a lot of them said, well, we lose money on that, but we make it up in the upsell. So in other words, you buy the album for $4.95 to cover shipping, which just barely covers shipping.
Right.
And not really, because you got to put in the price of the envelope, the padded envelope.
Yeah.
So really, you actually do lose a little bit of money on each one. But then when you put it in, they say, oh, and, for one time only, you can get our T-shirt for half off, or you get our newest album for half price or whatever it is. And they do that. And then it hit me, like we were saying, a lot of people don't have CD players anymore. So rather than, and I was never really comfortable with the whole upsell thing. I took John Ozaka's course about, music, marketing manifesto. And, I took 3 versions of it. I was just never comfortable with the idea of saying to people, oh, well, there's more. Give us, buy this now. I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Instead of giving a sampler, because sampler says it's a sampler, it's a free album. And I put it up on the store and said, you can buy this for $10, or you can sign up for a newsletter and get it for free.
Yeah.
So, get on our newsletter, because the more people we have on our newsletter, the better it is. Now, I just want to point this out. I literally just like 3 days ago changed over from AWeber, who was handling, the company that we deal, to send out newsletters so they don't get flagged as spam. And I changed it to MailerLite. And I think I did it all right. And I think it all works. But if you have any problem, let me know. Just email me. It's all on the website. Contact us. It's hitman@hitmanbluesband.com. Let me know if you have any problems. It should work. I tested it, but it's new. So
cool. Well, I'm going to hang out here with my lovely audience for a while, but my regards to your lovely wife and family, and dude, I hold you in the highest regard, both as a musician and as a dude, as a guy. You're just always great to talk to. I like to talk to people who have thought about things, and you have thought about things.
Well, yeah, listen, man, you're an inspiration. You really are. You've been through a lot. You've dealt with a lot of crap, and you just keep on going. Yeah. And, I find that amazing. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do.
All right. Back at you. Anything you ever need, let me know.
Oh, 50,000 listeners, but yes.
Okay. When I get them, you'll get them.
Sounds good, bro.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Good night now.
There he is, the Hitman himself, Russell Alexander, the Hitman Blues Band. Guys, I got to tell you, you really need to go get some of this music. Look, dip your toe in. Go get the newsletter signed up for, and then just, see what you like. Some of those songs, for all I know, are on the albums. And if you can figure that out, then you're in business. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a great guy. And just love talking to him about music and everything else. So he's a hit in Europe. Well, he's a hit here too. I think it's the Long Island Music Review. So I mean, there's a concert that's on YouTube and all that stuff. I could barely understand him with the thick Australian accent. I don't understand that. Okay, let's get maybe to some of your comments, because, when I have guests, that's probably not the time to share your rate of self-pleasure in the chat room, because, the guests can see that and doesn't bode well for me. And I'm probably not going to be very tolerant of that. Now, when there's no guest, of course, then show everybody how bright you are. But I may be opening up the phone lines here. Let's see. He's the spitting image of Tom. No, he's better looking than that. You want them to watch. Okay. Well, good. I'm not like the other shows. Oh, and Terry Nee with $1. Terry, you should have spent that on some Hitman Blues Band music, dude. That's the way we roll around here. I specifically, it says no super chats tonight. We're going to try and get the Hitman some sales, at least from our show. I got to tell you, Green Thing, 2-minute warning, Miss Catherine, Angel in Shadows. I could go on and on and on. There are some fabulous. Oh, Sharing Christmas with the Blues. What about that one? Just in time for the holidays. So anyway, yeah, I'm not like your other hosts, kids. I don't need a lot of the show's for smart people. If you find you're not enjoying it, well, you can do the math on that. Does the Hitman's wife wear a top hat too? Occasionally she does, as a matter of fact. She has her own stage presence. She got a top hat. She got a like with the Tux Tales thing going on. Yeah, man, they've got a cool thing they're doing. So Scott says, so smart. I don't know that it's so smart, but it's substantially. Oh, Chunk, it's been so nice having you. And now it's time to say goodbye. I hope you enjoy the other shows on the internet. Bye-bye. Don't go away mad. Just go away. All right, let's, the phone lines are open, 972-994-6822 if you want to call in. If you don't, that's okay. We've got plenty to do. Coming up tomorrow night, we're going to have the show on the thalidomide poisoning. See, that's the show you guys should have come in and been a jerk on. The thalidomide poisoning. That's way more. You would have had a great time with that. Let's see. Oops, and he's gone. Yeah, he's gone. I warned him several times. I mean, we all like to have a nice time, but I just don't need to know how often that you toss off. By the way, nobody needs to hear that. Yes, Scott, we actually are doing a show on that. Okay, if you say so. If you say so. Yes, Matt, that's exactly what thalidomide did to people, and we'll cover that. So we're going to give it 7 minutes, and if we don't get any calls, fine, and if we do, fine, and that's what we're doing. But you have to go listen to some of this music. Give it a listen. Give it a listen. Dupa says, no, not Chunk. Every time I start to make a new friend, he goes away. I'm sorry, Dupa, but you have so many currently existing friends that you shouldn't have any problem. And you can find Chunk somewhere else on the internet or beneath a nearby rock. It's really up to you. You know. Scott says he's certainly blues music. Oh, there's absolutely no question about that. Absolutely no question. No question about that. He is the blues. And happy to have him. Happy to have him. Going back over to England. Turn of the year. Let's see. Soviet Goat, I'd never heard of them, so I can't tell you whether I can do on that band, if indeed it even exists. 972-994-6822. That's your number to call. And odd to me that all the people that... I'm sorry, Dupa. I really am sorry. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Learn they exist. Why should I have to learn about things you like? Just curious. I'm just curious. A lot of you folks think that, you know, I'm obligated. I'm not really that obligated. I'm not really that obvious. He's always asking honest questions. Ever hear of Luke, Puke, and the Vomit? I have not. You know, what is this? Hey, we listened to Dice Clay Babylon about the bass guitar for like an hour. This is a give and take. Well, no, this is whatever I decide it is what it is. Matt C. says, I'm new here, just discovered you. Are you a religious man? I'm spiritual. That's okay. You're a good host for taking the hard-hitting topica. I don't know about hard-hitting topics. Let's see. So I call you. I can drive up your numbers. I don't think you owe me. I'm just here to have fun, Mr. Gully. Well, okay. That's a lot to go through. So you call me. Or not. That's your decision. You can drive up my numbers. I don't care whether you can or not. Does it appear to you at all that I'm trying to drive up numbers here? I don't think you owe me. I'm just here to have fun, Gully. You know, have you done any analysis of how many people that you have in number are actually people that support you? Because if you do, you won't worry about the number. I mean, it's the whole Seinfeld thing. The first season of Seinfeld, his ratings were terrible, but the ratings he got were from the highest income bracket in the United States. That's really what you're going for. You're looking for, was it Malcolm Gladwell that said 1,000 people that believe in what you're doing? That's what you're looking for. Spiritual means religious, but with crystals. Now, see, that's funny. Let's see. Dupa says that Terry turned her on to Luke Puke and the Vomits. I'm stunned that that's a real band. Somebody's going to hell, according to Terry D. I don't know. Matt C., I think you need to consult a psychologist or your clergy about that. The water cooler chatters, huh? Is that it? Let's see. I'm not Seinfeld. Gosh, I thought I was for a second. I'm sorry that you can't keep up. If I was to reference, like I did earlier, Duke Tomato and the Power Trio, that doesn't mean I think that I'm Duke Tomato and the Power Trio. See. So you're clearly not Carl Sagan. The Slits are an awesome band. Dupa, Darren says, Dupa, my 71-year-old pastor from Virginia told me about Luke Puke and the Vomits. Man, oh man. Soviet Goat, I hate to admit it, but there's some truth there. There's definitely some truth there. Or at least has been in the past. I'm sure they're getting it under control. 972-994-6822. Oh, just a couple more minutes left, and then we're going to close things down. I'm opening these phone lines at the end of every show until anybody but the 4 people that always call in, Oh, gosh, some of you guys have screen names that are just like, goodbye. And that's doing a lot. I actually default to try and keep as many people around here as possible. But at the end of the day, it's, you're creating a community. Some people don't belong in communities, Matt, you're well adjusted, but you're following the path of 666. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't have to say the right things. You just can't say the wrong things, is all. That's all. Well, anyway, it's been a great evening, and hopefully you enjoyed hearing from Mr. Alexander. Hopefully all of you guys, I don't know why you wouldn't just sign up for the newsletter. I meant to point out another couple times while Russell was here, he does not hammer you with, newsletter postings. It's not like getting a pizza and then Pizza Hut every single night. No, it's once a month tops. Well worth the time. Soviet Goat, tomorrow night is about the thalidomide scandal, which resulted in most of the drug regulation that you have in this country and most of the other countries in the world. And then Thursday night, we will be talking about It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, and our special guest star will be the Reverend Bob Levy. And then Friday night, the return of Ed Robertson, and we'll be talking to him about his new book, Men of Action, which features the TV shows. Hold on here. The TV shows, The Magician, Run for Your Life. Whoops, come on, man. There we go. Run for Your Life, The Untouchables, and Harry O. So we'll talk to him about that on Friday night. That's what we got coming up. Matt C. owns many of Perry Caravello's personal belongings. That's not a lie. That's great. Scott LaRock, thalidomide is tragic. And when I tell you the reasons it's so tragic, don't get me started. We'll talk about that. Terry Nee says, my friend, pastor, saved my faith. The church and the people in it can separate you from Christ. Faith. Oh, okay. Matt says, I can't wait. I'm very researched on the thalidomide scandal. Well, there you go. So Dennis Rader, who that's spelled incorrectly, says, shouldn't have blocked Chunk. Oh, I didn't block him. I banned him. So, sorry, Dennis. The wolf says, goodbye, love your show, says the small girl. Oh, yeah. It's always great when he calls in with that voice. Always great. Boom! Shakalaka. Matt says, banned. Give Chunk the link. No, Chunk has run his route on the program. And now he will be upset that he can't come here and do whatever he wants to in our chat room, of a show he doesn't like. Nice Dale Carnegie. Dupa says, how long does the banning last? 10 days? If by 10 days you mean forever, yes. Scott Lark says, okay, never mind. Something tells me this isn't the last we've heard of Chuck. Well, see, here's the thing about Chunk. It doesn't cost me anything to just keep hitting the button. I mean, oh no. Terry Nee says, my parents put thalidomide in my Christmas stove. Well, Terry, since you are not a woman with child, thalidomide will have no effect upon you, and no negative effect upon you. Dirt McDuke says, I love the show and I'm still here, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's play a game of how many accounts does he have? Yeah, they all do that. They all line up and do that. It's okay. Stocking. You're fine, Terry. I'm just going to give you a sneak peek. It's a period after conception, like between day 26 and day, I want to say 40. It might be day 32. It's only in that window, that very specific window, that bad things happen to babies if their mother is on thalidomide. Let's see. Dupa says, Terry, which is worse, thalidomide in your Christmas stocking or the game Dirt? I've never heard of the game Dirt. What is the game Dirt? Please, someone tell me. I have no idea what that is. Absolutely no idea. All right. I'm going to give it a minute and a half more, and then I'm closing the phone lines, and then I'm out of here. Making food. The Wolf says, Terry, you should be more concerned about the pervitine they slipped into your food. Yeah, pervitine will mess you up no matter when, no matter who. It's not gender specific. It helps if you're a German fighter pilot, because they had a direct line to the pervitine. It was in a box in their fighter but jet. You know, they didn't even have to request it. PCL fan says, crayons taste delicious. Matt C says, what brand mic is that? Your voice is crystal clear. It's like the grill, like the glacial waters of Slovenia. This is a Behringer microphone. That window is where you and I met. It is. Dirt McDirt says, it's my game. Oh, it's your game. Okay. Will there be pictures of the babies tomorrow? There will not be pictures of the babies. There will be pictures of people, but not the babies. I don't want to get nailed by YouTube. There are pictures of the babies that exist out there. And there are pictures of toes and hands and arms and things. Don't really want to dwell on that too much. But yeah, there will be pictures, just not of infants. Explain the game Dirt your father played. Okay, if nobody's going to explain it, then I'm going to quit talking about it. Captagon is the new Pervitine. So Germans were very big into the Pervitine. They not only for the military, but it was an over-the-counter drug for the society at large, which makes you stay up longer, more manic. Yeah, so Pervitine, and I'm not joking about the officers that flew the fighter jets. They had like this special engraved Pervitine box. Yeah, Pervitine's. Well, we like the Blitzkrieg on the Pervitine. So it allows us to be more evil. Like those guys needed more evil fuel or something. Not Terry loves tech, but C loves X. Okay. Well, I don't know that that's true, but people did eat less when they were on Pervitine. The soldiers, they could go for hours and days without any rest. Let's see here. Okay, closing the phone lines down. Kids, that old clock on the wall says, like the river now green, it's time for me to get on up out of here. You do not have to leave, but I'd prefer it if you did, because I'm leaving. Lock up after you're gone. And with all that being said, I guess the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.